Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
Welcome back. Red Robinson and the Diner coming up at noon. Our final segment with Scott Stanley and Bill Dick from MurphyBatistta, LLP, Vancouver, and Kelowna-based personal injury lawyers, both. Scott here in Vancouver. Bill is running the Kelowna office. And up in the Okanagan, up in the interior, we're talking the program today has just taken a decidedly sporty note. And we've talked about organized sports for children and grown-ups. We've talked about extreme sports. And one of the sports that I think most British Columbians enjoy the most is anything to do with the water. And Bill, up in the interior, all those beautiful lakes and all the rest of it. So let's talk boating for a little bit here, and legal liabilities that surround being a happy boat owner. For example, is as we car drivers are required to do, if you own a boat, are you required by law in BC to have insurance on that boat?
You're not required to have liability insurance like we have on motor vehicles.
Really?
No, not for boats.
Why?
I don't know.
Are there numerous examples every year that you could cite as lawyers from personal experience that suggest maybe such a requirement would be a good idea?
Well, I did a trial last year on a boating accident that occurred on Lake Okanagan, and the boat was uninsured.
Okay.
Fortunately, my clients had bought the equivalent of marine ump, like motor vehicle ump. They actually had marine ump, so they had to go to the task of getting a judgment because although the responsible boat owner didn't have insurance, the boat they were in provided ump coverage to them.
Oh, I see. So they were passengers in a boat that had this uninsured protection.
Right.
I had a claim years ago involving a rental of a boat, and the rental agreement had a specific clause that said just the person renting it was to operate and drive the boat.
Right.
The woman let her 16-year-old drive the jet boat, and it was in Lake Okanagan, and they were coming in to the area under the then bridge.
Okay,
it's a new bridge now.
Right.
And it gets really, really choppy.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the young guy gunned the jet boat, hit a big wave. It jumped up and landed on top of another boat full of German tourists.
Oh, my.
And severe injuries to these German tourists, head injuries. And so there was ultimate liability against the boat operator, who should not have been allowing her kid to drive the boat. The kid who was operating it negligently because he was going too fast.
Right.
But there is liability. There's liability for boating accidents all the time.
So when this case came to you, Bill, did you represent the German tourists against this woman and her son?
Yeah, and the rental company. Yeah.
Oh, I see. And the rental company who had, they gave the boat in the first place.
Right.
And so how would the rental company be liable, given that they weren't driving and they didn't?
The rental company wouldn't be unless there was something wrong with the boat. But we sued them anyways. But ultimately, the woman had homeowners insurance that covered her, and as opposed to liability insurance on the boat itself. So she had some level of insurance.
Interesting, Scott. You and I've touched on this before. It is absolutely amazing what a homeowner's insurance package actually covers. It's not all about the mailman falling down and breaking his leg when you didn't shovel the sidewalk. It covers everything. You get banged up at Whistler Blackcomb in a ski accident, there's some way your homeowner's policy covers you. How does that work?
Well, a lot of people think that if it's your homeowner's policy, it's only going to relate to lawsuits that occur at your home. And actually, this is one of the rare instances where people actually have more coverage than they think they do. Usually they have a lot less.
Okay.
But most homeowner policies provide coverage for general negligence. So if you or any member of your household is generally negligent
anywhere in the world at the time,
they'll provide coverage. There's some exclusions. It doesn't include operations of motor vehicles and things like that.
And are some of these extreme sports that we've touched on, might some of them be excluded from this as well?
Right. So instances where they would be excluded because they're not,
it's not personal liability.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So instances where a personal homeowner's policy has responded to a lawsuit would be negligence during a hockey game, someone that was overly aggressive, another skier running into another skier, the boating case that Bill referred to,
right?
A guy getting drunk at a bar and negligently pushing someone over. So it provides coverage for a variety of areas. It's
quite surprising. And, when you sit down with your insurance agent to renew your policy every year, they don't tell you this. It's all about, somebody slipping on the sidewalk and being safe, and that seems to be the extent of the conversation. Now that I've learned from my guests on the Law Show some of these other circumstances that homeowner's policy is in effect, I've actually asked my broker when I renewed it last, well, does this cover this? And she stopped and went, well, yes, it does. And I said, and does it cover this? Well, yes, it does. And I said, well, how come you've never told me this before? And she said, because you've never asked. And that's, I suppose, fair to the extent that she was right. I hadn't. But wouldn't it be helpful for my insurance agent or everyone's insurance agent, Scott, gave them a little bit of a clue as to the kind of coverage they enjoyed and didn't know about?
Well, I think it's more important they tell you the coverage you don't have, right?
Oh, okay.
I think it's more important they do that as opposed to telling you about the coverage you do have.
Okay.
You know, they actually have the broker has an obligation to tell you things that you would be an exclusion. For example, like when you go away on a vacation, your house is vacant for 30 days, you probably have no coverage. They have an obligation to tell you about those exclusions so that you can deal with them.
Okay. But it's the coverage stuff, Bill, I guess, that surprised me, and that I don't think many of us, and we all pay our homeowners or renters insurances, and renters packages are similar in terms of the protection afforded too, right?
Right.
So we pay these policies out year after year after year, and I don't think very many of us, Bill, understand the depth of coverage we're paying for. And it's pretty good.
Yeah, on the liability side. And you know, conversely, a lot of people don't know all of the various exclusions that prevent you from having access to coverage either.
Okay. So again, when it comes time to renew your homeowner's policy, Scott, maybe spend a little time with your broker this time around instead of just, where do I sign? Here's your check. See ya next year. Maybe have a bit of a conversation this time.
100%. Ask some questions.
Okay. And that includes that same kind of questioning attitude and being unafraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question, especially when you're paying for it. Also, when it comes to your car insurance coverage, too.
Oh, that's very true.
Just ask questions. Don't be shy.
Yeah, you don't have to feel intimidated if you don't know something. I think that's why a lot of people don't ask questions. They think they'll be perceived as being dumb. And, you know, there's lawyers that struggle to understand these things. So speak up, ask questions.
All right. And if it's time to see a lawyer, I highly recommend our friends at MurphyBatistta in Vancouver and now in Kelowna. In Vancouver, they're downtown at 650 West Georgia, and they're all online at MurphyBatistta.com. You can talk to Scott or Bill. All the contact information is available on the website. Gentlemen, thank you. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Sterling.
Bill, have a safe trip back up to the Okanagan.
Thank you very much.
See you next week on The Law Show.